Carl, I was hoping you could just react first to this BuzzFeed controversy. You've been in this situation before.
I think it's going to take time before we fully understand what the exact truth is here in terms of the facts relating to Mr. Cohen and whether or not the president directed him to lie, and the facts regarding the kind of attribution in the story that BuzzFeed ran, in which they attribute part of it not just to sources but also to documents that the special prosecutor has, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know where we are with this story right now. And it's gonna shake out also perhaps, and I would hope, in Cohen's testimony coming up on the 6th, 7th, 8th of February.
When the story came out on BuzzFeedNews.com in the 10 p.m. hour on Thursday, virtually every major news outlet in the country ran with it. CNN ran with it, MSNBC, even Fox News a little bit. I wonder, Carl, even though all of us, including you, kept saying, be cautious, be skeptical, we have not confirmed this, did we all make a mistake by running with BuzzFeed's story?
No, I think we had to report it and attribute it to BuzzFeed. And as I said on our air, we don't know whether or not this story is accurate, contextual, true, and it needs to be run down. But BuzzFeed indeed has been at the front of this part of the story. I think you also need to look at what the pattern has been in terms of the reporting of the Russia story by all of the press. And that is that it is the press that has been accurate throughout this. Hundreds and thousands of stories by the AP, by Washington Post, by CNN, by Reuters, by all the major news organizations, the Wall Street Journal, that have turned out to be true. And the president has, it has turned out, has been telling one untruth after another in regard to Russia. His conduct has been the issue here, not the conduct of the press, which he would like it to be. The record of the press in reporting the Russia story is actually pretty spectacular. And when there have been mistakes made,
Trump's allies, they point to the mistakes. They point to big mistakes that have happened at CNN and elsewhere. Is what you're saying that, you know, we're not batting 1,000, but we're batting pretty close? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that the reporting on the Russia story and the Trump presidency has been excellent by and large. And yes, look, reporters make mistakes. News organizations make mistakes. In Watergate, we made a mistake, a very serious mistake in terms of how the press and the Washington Post and Bob Woodward and myself were perceived for a few days, because we reported that the assistant, the principal assistant to the President of the United States, his chief of staff, had directed the payment of hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Watergate burglars and other undercover activities against the opposition Democrats, according to grand jury testimony. Well, it turned out the grand jury testimony did not exist because the prosecutors didn't have the grand jury ask about it, and we surmised from something a source had said that the grand jury had. We took us 2 days to figure out what the mistake was. We were right. The chief of staff controlled that fund, and in the Watergate report of the special prosecutor and in the hearings it was established that he directed $350,000, just as we had said, to be spent. And it was apparent within 2 days that we were right. Now, it might not be apparent in 2 days in this instance who is right, what the exact context is. We're going to have to wait to find out. It's clear that from the Mueller statement that some part of what BuzzFeed wrote, the special prosecutor believes was in error. Is it the substance of Cohen saying that he was directed by the president to lie, or is it about how the special prosecutor came to know such a thing, if indeed that is what happened? So we're going to have to wait. I keep saying the same thing. We don't know. What we do know is, though, that Donald Trump has been claiming from the beginning that he is the victim of a witch hunt by Mueller. He has been attacking Mueller day in and day out. He can no longer say with any credibility that this is a witch hunt, because the special prosecutor has taken this opportunity to say, I want to be clear on the facts. And in my view as special prosecutor, there is some error here that needs to be clarified or corrected by my office, in knowing that this will be something that will stop some of the talk on the Hill about impeachment, et cetera, as well as play to the president's favor. So that witch hunt aspect is pretty much out the window about Mueller at this point.
Can I ask you one more question before I have to go? The idea of a smoking gun. You know, a lot of Trump critics reacted to the BuzzFeed story and said, there it is, the smoking gun. But is that the wrong way to look at this altogether?
Well, I think one of the unfortunate legacies of Watergate was that there had to be a smoking gun to establish that Richard Nixon was a criminal president, because it had already been established by many of the tapes, by John Dean's testimony, by a preponderance of absolutely certifiable circumstantial evidence that was mountainous. There was no doubt as to his guilt. And so he was very successful in establishing this standard. Unless you have a smoking gun, I should not be removed from office. Well, it turned out that on the tapes there was a smoking gun that confirmed what John Dean had said. So we were left with that legacy. I think that in what we're dealing with Donald Trump, you have a similar situation. We have a president of the United States, and we need to wait for the Mueller report. It is absolutely essential that we all take a deep breath and wait for the Mueller report. But in the meantime, from available sources, including filings by Mueller and the Southern District of New York, we have established, the press has established, that the President of the United States, his family members, people closest to him in the campaign, have lied at every turn in almost everything having to do with Russia, including largely on this Trump Tower business, when in fact the President of the United States said no such thing was happening at the time. And it's his family members who said long ago, we get a tremendous amount of money from our business in Russia and from Russians, while Donald Trump was saying, no, we don't get any money from Russia and Russia. So the issue here goes back to the truthfulness of the President of the United States, which is manifestly, we have learned, untruthful. And so one of the problems we have in the press, I hear myself sort of jumping backwards when I say that out loud on television. I'm not used to saying out loud the President of the United States lies serially over and over and over.
It's uncomfortable to say.
So pejorative.
But we have to tell the truth.
And so, but yet it's truthful. And one of the things that has gotten lost in this story by Trump making the conduct of the press the issue, the same reporters and news organizations, including CNN, including the Washington Post, the New York Times, including me, including Bob Woodward, including all these reporters that Trump attacks, he loved us during the primaries when we were reporting on Hillary Clinton's emails. We could do no wrong. So this idea of fake news, we are reporting real news. And Donald Trump knows that.
He does. He knows
trope,
it. He knows
intended
it.
for the base, but it is but the question that is at issue is, we have a President of the United States who lies, and this is historically demonstrable, repertorially factual, contextual. A president of the United States who lies serially, routinely, compulsively, such as never has happened in our modern history of the presidency. And that is a huge part of this story. And what happens to the president of the United States.